no, I'm not going to smoke pot, no thank you. And then slowly, 15, 16 years old, starting to go out to a party, having a few drinks. And next thing you know, I just kept crossing one threshold of another one of compromise in my life. And all of a sudden, I fast forwarded a few years later, and I was a full-blown drug dealer, hanging out with criminals and not realizing how my life had gotten to this point. And I remember at the critical point in this life that I was living, I literally had two grow-ops side by side right here in Abbotsford. And I had a limousine that I bought and paid for. I had this guy that was driving me around town, and I really thought that I was everything. I was like, man, I got the limousine, I got money, I got all these things, but they really didn't mean nothing. It really was all of a facade. And I remember this crazy stuff happening where the guy that was driving me around, my limousine driver, he actually set me up, and a bunch of guys came into my house. I remember him coming back to my house to give me some money, and all of a sudden I heard all these footsteps coming up my stairwell. And I jumped up, and there was about 8 to 10 guys that I was looking at. And they had a gun pointed at me, and they dragged me into the bedroom, and they started arguing over whether or not to pull the trigger as the gun was pointing to my kneecap. And see, all that didn't just aspire overnight. It was years of making little bad choices and basically turning my back on God and the call of God that was on my life. And I remember my whole life flashing before my mind in that moment when they were arguing, these two guys, over whether or not to pull the trigger. And my heart was just pounding in my chest. But I had a grandma that would never give up on me. She kept praying for me. And the guys basically threw me to the ground. They tied me up, and they basically decided they couldn't. One guy really wanted the other guy to pull the trigger and shoot my knee because he wanted to teach me a lesson. But the other guy said, I can't do that. It's during the day. It's too loud. And so they tied me up and took everything that I basically had worked for down in the basement. And I remember just thinking to myself, man, I need a life change. I need to do something differently, but didn't know how to get there or what to do at that age. There was so much peer pressure, guys. I'll promise you that peer pressure when you're at your age and being a youth, it doesn't just end when you become an adult. There's so much peer pressure, even with what Judy and the ladies here are promoting. There's probably lots of persecution and peer pressure for them not to promote and stand for what they believe in. And peer pressure just doesn't stop. When you're in high school, there'll be peer pressuring you to do wrong things. And there's an inner voice in your conscience that will speak opposite to that peer pressure. And I just plead with you to listen to that voice, that right and wrong voice that's telling you, choose right, don't choose wrong. Because that other voice, even though sometimes it'll sound so appealing to choose that wrong voice, it will always lead to death, in a sense, whether it's physical death or even just things that would harm you. And so, I just remember having this critical time where they tied me up in that house. And I'm just thinking, the guy had a gun to the back of my head, and I'm thinking, man, like, even if they don't kill me right now and they leave me here tied up, I got no food, no water, nobody knows about this house that I've been living in. I'm thinking, I'm going to die, one way or another. Now, my whole life was just flashing before my eyes in that moment. All the choices I had made, and turning off that voice of right and wrong and reason. And eventually, the one guy that I knew came upstairs and he said, "Hey, Braden, we're gonna leave you now, and we just think you should get out of town." And I remember my roommate was tied up too, and I'm just thinking, man, it's over for me. But somehow my roommate was able to break free and then untie me. And shortly after that, I called my cousin on the phone, and he just said to me, he said, "Braden," I told him everything was going on. He said, "I think you need a life change." And I was thinking, no kidding, man. And he just said, "Man, I think you should come to Bible college and change your life." And he just asked on the phone if he could pray for me. And I remember this overwhelming experience when he prayed for me on the phone, where I just had to pull the phone away because my heart was getting touched and I couldn't stop crying, and I didn't want my cousin to hear that, so I pulled the phone away. And so, long story short, I did go to Bible college this is about 10 years ago, and I changed my ways for a short period of time. But when I came back to Abbotsford, that peer pressure creeped up again. And I remember every one of my friends saying, "Oh, come on, Braden, man, you can have a drink, you can come to the club, you can do this, you can do that." And I just started going down that wrong path again. And it wasn't until 4 years ago until I found a group of friends that were firm in their faith. I'm just going to put it out there, in their faith in Jesus Christ and in God. And I seen something different in them. I seen a passion in them to basically mark the world for God and to stand for morality and to stand for that, like I'm saying, that conscience. It's really about a relationship with choosing right. And that was about 4 years ago, and that's probably about all the time I have, so I won't take up much more. There's so much more to my story, but that's just a nutshell of what I really want to impart to you guys as a younger generation is be bold. When you know something's right, I don't care if it's even in the small things. If you're at work and your boss is telling you to lie or do something that's contradictory to something you feel, I don't feel right about this, don't do it. Be bold in what you believe in. And yeah, that's pretty much it, Judy. I guess you said 5 minutes, so I can take on.
That's awesome. I'd love to listen to an hour sometime. Let's give him a hand. Thank you, Braden. Thank you.